LA Lakers, they're a very interesting team when it comes to fantasy this year. Is it Luka Dončić's team now? Where does LeBron fit into this? Does his usage come back? And also, what about Austin Reaves? Seems to be the third man here. We'll talk about this and a lot more, including DeAndre Ayton, next. G'day everybody, welcome back to the Ball Logic podcast. We're talking LA Lakers and Horse. They are a very interesting team when it comes to fantasy basketball this year, mate. They've got a lot of, I think it's fair to say we've got first three round options here in this team. One of the first teams that I've talked about this preseason that have had so many very relevant options in the first three rounds.
100%. You talk about your top three there, but when we're talking from an NBA point of view and wins-losses, the second best team when we're talking the Battle of Los Angeles.
It seems a bit that way, doesn't it? I think. Yeah. Obviously, the boys did Clippers the other day, and there's plenty to love over it in Clipperland. And I think you're right. I think they might be taking a little bit of a step back when it comes to the Battle of LA. But in saying that, we shouldn't definitely write them off at this point. You know, they're obviously. There's a few changes across the board, and the main one, I guess, we need to talk about first of all, in terms of transactions in the offseason, is DeAndre Ayton. They got their man at the 5. It seemed like he was the target for a long while there through that preseason and off-season, I should say. We'll talk about him and his value a little bit later, but it definitely makes him a better player when you compare him to Jackson Hayes, doesn't it?
100%. The centre position at LA has been a bit of a revolving door for the last few years, hasn't it? Jackson Hayes last year, you look back to the Dwight Howard days, and he was kind of relevant, but kind of not, and hasn't been since the days of Shaq that they've had a very relevant centre that, you know, when he's on, can pump out some really fantasy relevant basketball numbers.
Yeah, he can, which makes him an interesting option. And I think, you know, we'll talk about him a little bit later. There's definitely some better options when we're talking about the Lakers. But, mate, let's rewind a little bit. We'll talk about last year, first of all. They obviously had a pretty good year. They finished the third seed in the West behind the Rockets and the OKC Thunder. They finished with a 50-32 record. Sadly, that didn't really mean much, though, after they got bounced out by Minnesota in the first round of the playoffs. Bit of a kind of like a lackluster year, I guess you could call it, especially after the Luka Dončić trade. There was a lot of hope there that the Lakers were going to be able to go relatively deep into playoffs, and it just didn't happen, did it?
No, it didn't. Too much was reliant on LeBron and Dončić. No team chemistry, no time to get their games on the same page. So now that they've had the offseason together, I'm not saying LeBron's the answer because going into next season is going to be 40, 41 years of age. Dončić running the offense is the clear number one. It's been spoken about within the LA Lakers organization now. I guess the big question for me is, how does LeBron go with being the number 2 option now? It's been for forever and a day. Every organization, every franchise that he's played for, he's been the man, the number one man. How is he going to go transitioning into not being the man now?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I was looking at his numbers with and without Luka, or before and after the Luka trade, I guess is a better way of explaining it, and they're not too dissimilar. So I was hoping, narrative-wise, I was looking for a reason to pop LeBron down my draft board, if anything. I'm not a big LeBron guy. I think I've only ever drafted him once in the last 6 or 7 years of playing fantasy basketball. So, you know, maybe my tendencies there are to lean away from LeBron more so. But, look, he gets older. It's hard to avoid the age conversation every single time we talk about LeBron, sadly. It's, you know, he's 41 and this is Luka's team now. They've made it very clear. Rob Pelinka's made it very, very clear that this is Luka's team and that's the direction they're going. And, you know, is Austin Reaves the guy then that becomes Luka's number 2 once the post-LeBron era kicks in? I guess that's the main question that we need to cover. And yes, away from fantasy basketball, but it all has implications, doesn't it, as to what direction they're trying to go as a team.
Oh, it 100% does. When you've got Dončić and you've got LeBron, who are ball-dominant players, and then Reaves tends to do his best work with the ball in his hand as well, there's no real catch-and-shoot prominent players within the Los Angeles organization. Everyone likes to create their own shot off the dribble. Everyone loves to live with the ball in their hands. So your usage rates and who's got the ball is going to determine where everyone goes within the first few rounds here of fantasy basketball.
Absolutely. Mate, before we dive into our predictions for how we think the Lakers are going to go this year, off-season transactions, we already talked about DeAndre Ayton. They re-signed Jackson Hayes as well, so obviously going to be the backup 5 there. They got Jake LaRavia as well in a part of that deal through the off-season. And nice little pick up there as a backup 4, I think, more so. But there's a couple of moving pieces, isn't there, with Dalton Connect and how that all plays out. It looks like they're probably going to trade him at some point this season. It's more a matter of when, not if. But yeah, they've waived Shake Milton. They've signed Marcus Smart, which is an interesting conversation piece for what we think the starting 5 looks like a little bit later. How do you any of these move the needle for you besides Ayton?
Not fantasy-wise, no. I think Marcus Smart, he had a big bump in usage when he was at Washington last year with points and what have you. But being in an organisation now where he's going to sit in the corner and shoot threes, a la Rui Hachimura, with better defense, he may get more minutes that way because he has previously won a Defensive Player of the Year award. He can get your steals. He can get your blocks out of position. But Marcus Smart, he's going to be that typical 3-and-D player for us.
Yeah, he will, for sure. I think there's definitely some relevance for the Lakers in basketball land. Away from fantasy basketball, he's not someone that I'll be looking at drafting, I wouldn't have thought. I just don't think the minutes are there for him. But, mate, let's as we always do, predict how we're going to go with the Lakers. Do you see an improvement this year from 50-32? I'm going to say yes. But be it small, I don't think that we're going to see any sort of, high 50s win. But I think, what's realistic is probably 53 to 55 wins this year. If all comes together, obviously, you can't, and we don't ever like to go and try and factor in injury potential when we're talking about these predictions. But LeBron's going to miss some games. Luka's going to miss some games. It's all going to come down to whether Austin Reaves can stay on the court. How do you see him going this year?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's going to be an improvement. 54, 55 wins. I think that's pretty obtainable when you look at the organisation that the team that the LA Lakers have put together. But they're an aging list. I know Luka's young and I know Reeves is young. Ayton's had issues with his knees before. It's a long season. LeBron is 40, 41 years of age. Marcus Smart is not getting any younger. So when we're talking about a season that starts in October, and then you've got playoffs that start in May or late April, early May. That's a bloody long time to be going, back-to-backs and trainings and what have you for your older players. So while the wins and that are going to be there, I think they may falter during the playoffs.
Yeah, it's it's hard not to make that kind of prediction when you've got such an aging list, and it's the same with the Clippers, isn't it? Like, it just seems like LA have really leaned into a championship window where it's a win now situation. They know they've only got another year of LeBron, so they need to make it count right now, which is why they've gone and got Luka. They've they're doing their best to hold on to Austin Reaves as that long-term second option. They've gone and got DeAndre Ayton as probably the best upgrade at center that they've had in many, many years. So it's a win now or never, I think, in the short term anyway, when we're talking about the Lakers. Mate, let's move into the top 3 round picks for the Lakers. The obvious one, mate, it's Luka Dončić, isn't it, to kick things off. There's an argument that he could be a top 4 player this year. He finished the 6th best player last year. In fantasy basketball, triple-double threat nearly every night when he's on the court, 35 minutes a game. He's a guy that I, at the moment, have him at 3rd on my draft board. I'm a big kind of counting stats guy. I love, he gets you points, he gets you rebounds out of position, he gets you assists. It can allow you to lean into maybe a Porzingis or a Turner, knowing that you're going to get those kind of boards that you need to make that gap up at point guard is incredibly rare when a guy can put up 8 rebounds a game from the 1. And then 1.8 steals a game as well. I guess the question becomes, does he maintain that? I don't know whether he can hold 1.8. I think it comes back down to maybe a 1.1, 1.2 scenario, but it's a very clear punt strategy, isn't it? You probably have to start looking at punting, maybe field goal, maybe free throw isn't that great for a guard, and then definitely turnovers when you're drafting Luka.
Yeah, for sure. 50-game sample size last year, but only 45% from the field. Doesn't mean that when we see a skinny Luka pop up in preseason, even early on in the season, that given his improved fitness base and the cardio is a lot better, that those percentages do go up. The fact that he can play a lot more minutes and at a higher level, does this mean his percentages are going to go up? For me, I think so. I think he can nudge this back up towards 47.5%. Sorry, got a bit tongue-tied there. Free throws wise, I'd love to see him around 80% as well. With that improved cardio, having played sport in the past, you know that you're on top of your game for longer, the fitter you are. And what's he dropped, 20 to 25 pounds, they were saying? He's looking really skinny and looks as though he's moving a lot more freely now. So I think percentages-wise, this could be a massive bump for Luka this year.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 seasons before this, it was 48.7 and 49.6 from the floor. So, we can probably expect him to come back to those numbers, considering those were full seasons with Dallas. Obviously, learning a new system, a new coach, a new way of playing alongside LeBron is a challenge in itself. So, there was an adjustment period definitely for Luka. Obviously, his points per game dropped back as well with LeBron in the team, with Austin Reaves in the team getting their own usage. When those three played together in the same game, the usage looked like about 28 with Luka, 25 with LeBron, and 20 with Austin Reaves. So a season usage from Luka of 35.1%. Majority of that being when he was in Dallas, obviously, to inflate those numbers. So we do see the usage come back, but normally when you see usage come back, you see the efficiency start to climb, don't you?
That's right, yes.
Mate, how do you feel about LeBron this year? He was the 13th best player last year. It's hard to ever doubt LeBron. You don't really have to punt too much with LeBron either. He doesn't hurt your field goal percentage. His free throws exactly the same as Luka. He gets you threes, he gets you steals, he gets you everything else. It's turnovers, obviously, but that doesn't really. I'm not someone who really puts too much value into turnovers anyway. How do you feel about him this year?
Do I think he's going to keep the 13th ranking? Probably not. But for the casual fan out there, I want you to understand that when you see him being lazy on the defensive end, that doesn't translate to fantasy basketball. So we look at his stats here: 51% from the field. The same percentage as Luka from the line last year, 78%, but 24 points, nearly 8 rebounds, just over 8 assists. He's still getting a steal a game. So that all that lazy defense and the fail to switch and all that sort of jazz doesn't count when we're talking fantasy basketball. He still gets those numbers, but as you nailed, 3.7 turnovers per game, which was more than Luka Dončić last year. So again, if you're looking down the route of punting turnovers, he's your man. But be wary, being so old that he is, I'd say clearly the oldest person or player in the NBA going around now, especially of relevance, he will miss games this year.
Yeah, he will. He will. You've got to expect that. I think when you draft LeBron, you know that that's coming anyway. It's more a matter of, does he fit your build and where do you take him? And I guess for me, I've got him late second round. I think I've got him at 19 on my draft board at the moment. So I'd be more than happy if I got to the end of, if I had an early pick potentially, I'd be more than happy to pair them with LeBron in the late second. Depending on whether you're playing third round reversal, will probably change things about how you approach that next round after that, the third and fourth. But, there's some really nice options if you want to, if you manage to get Giannis relatively early in your draft, Giannis and LeBron 1 and 2 is something that I'd be more than happy to lean into, knowing that you're going to get points. I think Giannis gets a bump in assists. You're going to get boards. You fade and completely punt turnovers and free throw percentage. I think they actually pair quite nicely together.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Where do you have him at the moment on your draft board?
I've got him 15 at the moment.
Okay. Yeah.
I think, that may come back a tick towards sort of the back end of the second round between 20 and 24. But yeah, he's still very, very relevant when we're talking fantasy, but coupled with the right player, like you just said, could be awesome for your fantasy season.
100%. Absolutely. I agree with you there. Let's talk about Austin Reaves, mate, because he is the clear 3 in this team. He was the 32nd best player last year. The hard part for me to get a gauge on with Austin Reaves is he played a fair bit without Luka in the team, obviously pre-All-Star, pre-trade. So he was, about AD was there. So the usage and the position on the court was the same, right? He was probably the second guard or the main ball handler, though, outside of LeBron when AD was there. And then he became that second or third ball handler that ran a bit with the second unit at times too, right? So it's hard to get a gauge on what his usage looked like, but I did a bit of digging and we look back and when all three of Luka, LeBron and Austin Reaves played at the same time on the court, Austin Reaves' usage was at 20%, which is very low compared to his end of season 24.1. Then you look at when Austin Reaves was playing without LeBron and Luka, his usage was at 39. So I think, we can probably have a look at maybe, something in between that. I'd love to see what this dynamic looks like, but it's clear, I think, that they're leaning in an Austin Reaves right-hand man to Luka type situation moving forward. So you don't really want to kind of keep him out of the game for too long. And I don't know about you, but did you see the video footage online of LeBron doing a lot of catch and shoot 3 perimeter shooting work recently? Does that mean that he's moving into a more of a passive role in offense?
If this year is LeBron's swan song, and this is it, I think we wait one more year for the coming of Austin Reaves. So I've actually got him taking a bit of a backward step this year, Braino, when the big reason behind that is not Luka and it's not LeBron. It's the incoming DeAndre Ayton. So when you've got a center as good as what he is in the post, I think he's going to command touches, which means you brought up the point that you've got LeBron, you've got Luka. The third pickle out of all of those guys was Reaves. You throw DeAndre Ayton in there, and I reckon that 20% goes down to more of a 17, 16% usage, because DeAndre Ayton, he's no slouch in the post. He can get to work and do some good things there, especially from mid-range. He's got quite a cash mid-range jump shot.
Yeah, he does. And I guess you're right. Like, you know, it's not like Jackson Hayes was demanding any ball in his hands, was he? Right. He was just doing the defensive end, getting the blocks, getting the boards, and then dishing the ball out. So DeAndre Ayton will definitely get his on the offensive end, which does take the ball out of someone's hands, right? It's probably going to be out of Austin Reaves' hands, realistically. So you're right. I probably tend to agree there. Austin Reaves is a guy that I probably won't be drafting this year. Someone will take him before me, and that's completely fine, and I wouldn't blame anyone for taking him before me. I just don't necessarily have the value on him that I kind of would expect other people to match. You know, I've got him at 53. You've got him at 60. So I think we're 60, back end of the 5th round type stuff. If he falls into, let's just say if he falls into the 6th round, I'm more than happy to take him there in that spot, maybe late 5th. But I think there's going to be people that are pretty high on him, aka Matrix and Mally at the moment have him in the 40s. So they're definitely going to be taking him before I do this year.
For sure.
Let's talk about your boy DeAndre Ayton, hey, before we move on to the rest. It's, or does he fit into another category? Maybe he fits into the those mid-range value guys, I think. Let's go into that. Your opportunity. Becomes how much opportunity, Horse, because he's the clear 4th option on the court, isn't he? That's the challenge, I think. If he can get you 16 and 10, which is pretty much his career average with a block, he's kind of done his job, but that was good enough for 80th last year. So do you see an improvement?
I do. He was part of a Portland Trailblazers organisation that were punting wins last year and getting more time into your younger players, and only 40 games played last year. And some of those were off the bench too, Braino. So 30 minutes per game, 56 from the field. So he's really, really good from the field. 14.5 points, 10 boards. Doesn't really do too much. When you're talking protecting the rim, 1 block per game. Not overly great, but okay for a center. But DeAndre Ayton in a better organization, he's not going to have those collapsing double teams coming to him when he's got Luka and LeBron and Reaves around him. It might be time to cook for DeAndre, sorry.
I don't know. I'm not that keen, if I'm honest. I think, you look back at the 4 years before this, right? And don't get me wrong, top 60 player in fantasy basketball the last 4 years before last year. 43rd, 52nd, 46th, 49th. And his points were good, 16, 18, 17. Boards were above 10 every single year. And there was one random year where he shot 81% from the free throw line, which is never going to happen again. So for me, I'm looking at it going, where's the value in DeAndre Ayton? Because at the moment, he's just a boards and rebounds guy. I wouldn't even look at him and go, I like his block numbers. Because realistically, he's had 3 out of his 5 seasons since 2020. He's gone under 1 block a game as a starting center. So for me, that's not something that appeals to me. Turnovers, he doesn't hurt you, but he doesn't really get you steals either. He's had 1 season above 1 steal per game, and he's had 2 seasons above 1 block per game as a starting center. No assists, doesn't shoot the 3 ball, hurts you with the free throw percentage. I don't love it. I don't know. Like I just feel and the 4th option on the court, a relatively poor, lazy defender at different times. The stats don't necessarily show it because the clips have gone through social media, and he gets a bit of a bad rap for it. But I don't know. I think 80th, more than happy to take him around that point. but I won't be touching him before the 80th pick.
How do you think he is known as a lazy defender? How do you think him and LeBron are going to team up on the same court, being both
Luka?
known as and Luka? Like, they're not the most defensive heavy or interested team that there is in the NBA. There's going to be a lot to be picked up on by the Marcus Smarts and these sorts of players, but they could be one of those, they're scoring 120 a night, but getting 125 scored against them.
Yeah. It just depends on the pace that they play at, right? Like, I don't know whether they're an Atlanta Hawks type pace on offense. They play relatively slowly, especially when you've got Luka now on the team that's in slow motion most of the time. So, yeah, I don't know whether they're going to get 130 plus put on them, but they're not a good defensive unit. Which is why I really like the acquisition of Marcus Smart. Before maybe preface this, I don't know whether there's anybody like late rounds that I'm overly interested in on the Lakers. I still don't even think I would draft Marcus Smart. I just don't know whether the peripherals are there. I think he hurts you in a couple of categories. Like, the efficiency isn't exactly great for Marcus Smart. He turns the ball over a little bit as well. So don't know whether I love it, but it does create a conversation as to what their starting five potentially looks like. Do you want to jump to that?
Let's do it.
What do you reckon? Because I personally think there's four very obvious options, and then the question mark becomes, does Rui Hachimura start? And is he draftable? I guess we can have that conversation in the same breath. Or do they shore up the defense and have someone to guard the best player every night and get Marcus Smart in the starting unit?
I think they've got to go smart. You look at their defense right now, and you've got Reaves, you've got LeBron, you've got Ayton, and you've got Dončić. None of that screams out defensive stopper to me. So in any good, successful team, you've got at least one player who's, if not known as the stopper, can do a good job as a defensive guy. And Rui Hachimura doesn't scream that to me. But Marcus Smart, he's won previous Defensive Player of the Year awards. Yes, he is older, but for me, he gets first crack in this starting five.
I agree. I don't know whether it's a spicy take. It's good that we've both agreed on it, because a lot of people have Rui Hachimura as the starting three, LeBron at the four, which I completely understand. I actually think Luka, obviously, starting, LeBron at the four, Ayton at the five. I think Reaves will be the shooting guard, the small forward, and Marcus Smart will be the shooting guard. I mean, maybe that's what they should do. I don't know whether they will. I just think that Rui Hachimura's value as a scorer is off the bench, personally. I think he's efficient. I think he gets better opportunity off the bench and he's better utilised off the bench than he would be as the fourth or fifth option on the court, surrounded by Luka, LeBron, Reaves, Ayton, personally.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And then you got Laravia, Hayes, Hachimura, Minnesota Timberwolves legend, Jared Vanderbilt coming off the bench as well. Like, they need scoring in that second unit. They've got heaps of it in the first unit, but not much of it in the second unit. So Rui Hachimura, that's where his value is.
Yep. No, I agree. I think Rui off the bench is the sixth man, maybe a sneaky little sixth man of the year kind of punt there on him if you're a sports bettor, gamble responsibly. But I think, Marcus Smart provides too much value defensively to leave him out of this rotation too much. But the Lakers, they're an interesting team, mate. Obviously some obvious options up front, a little bit of value up the back there, and depending on how you feel about DeAndre Ayton, he might be a guy that you can take. We're talking, seventh round?
Yep.
6th, 7th round. I think he probably is an option. Obviously, pending the squad that you've already got as well. I think he fits into a very specific team build, doesn't he, DeAndre Ayton? So you've got to be looking at, who you could get around that point, because there's really good value between like 70 to 110.
I think something that needs to be brought up before we finish up on the Lakers, and that's Dalton Connect. So he was traded last year, and then that got rescinded. He ended up back at the Lakers. Do people at home, Braino, go out and grab him, say, with the last pick of the draft, or grab him off waivers thinking Lakers are going to move him on, but they need to show his worth, and he may play a lot early to try and bump up that trade value to then potentially move him on? Or how can you see this playing out?
Yeah, no, I think you bang on with that. I think that there's going to be a lot of early season value in Dalton Connect. I mean, we're talking about a guy that might play 15 to 18 minutes a game as a max, I think. So, do you take a guy that's going to play 18 minutes a game as a late round fly? Yeah, sure, you could. And I think there's potential there for him. But you've got to be ready to just drop him and move on. He's going to be one of those guys. And for the most part, if you're in 12-team, 9-category drafts that go 14 rounds deep, your last round or your second last round is usually a flyer that you go, yeah, you know what, this is just going to be my streaming spot. For Dalton Connect, I think, yeah, you can take a last round flyer on him. Are there going to be better options? Look, honestly, there probably will be. He's probably not going to be a guy that I'll be drafting, but you're right on the strat there from the Lakers. I think they're going to try and build up his trade value before they try and move him on.
For sure.
Because obviously they tried to trade him for a different position and he's got all butthurt about it. It's like, mate, they didn't go and upgrade you. They traded you for a completely different need with the squad. So, a bit of an overreaction there from him, but just a fella wanting to get some game time.
Pick your chin up, mate. Let's go.
Yeah, spot on. Mate, that's the Lakers. That'll wrap us up, hey? Obviously, for anybody who wants to get full access to our draft board, you can go into the Patreon. The link is in the description below. Cost you less than $6 a month. To get involved at the moment, it's just about to go. The price is about to go up to near $10 a month, so get in now before it does on September 1. That price will go up. So you get full draft board, 168 players deep from all 5 or 6 of our expert NBA fantasy basketball heads at Insight, at Ball Logic, and you can get that as well as heaps of articles and things that we're going to be doing through the preseason. Flanders has been doing up some great stuff in there on a bit of a deep dive on each team, so you can get that there, guys. Otherwise, hit the subscribe button and like if you like the content. Plenty more coming this preseason. We'll see you for the next one.
Peace.